Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is 5090 Biology, November 19. We are discussing another MCQ paper today, and this was the November 19 paper 1-1, and I hope this is helpful to you all. Let's look at question number 1. During a lesson about animal and plant cells, the student reads out a number of statements about cell structure. Only 3 of his statements are correct. Only 3 of his statements are correct. All cells have a cell wall. No, only plant cells have a cell wall, and fungus has a cell wall, and certain protoctista have a cell wall. Then cell walls are made of cellulose. But you see, they're talking of animal and plant cells. They are not talking of fungus. So fungus cell wall is not cellulose made of chitin. So cell walls are made of cellulose. That's correct. Chromosomes carry DNA. Yes, chromosomes carry DNA. Chromosomes are made up of DNA. So this one is correct. 4. Cell walls contain starch. This is wrong. All cells have a cell membrane. Yes, every cell has a cell membrane. Please remember, virus is not a cell, so it doesn't have a cell membrane. Then number 6, a sap vacuole helps an animal cell maintain its turgor. No. Chromosomes are found in the cytoplasm. No. So the answer to that was only 2, 3, and 5. So coming on to the next question, which statement is always correct for both diffusion and osmosis? They depend on energy. No, that's only active transport. They involve movement of particles down a concentration gradient. They involve the movement of water molecules, and they take place only in liquids. No, I mean diffusion, perfume diffuses across, and you can smell it, and you can say, oh my God, that's a nice perfume, or a good one, or a bad one. So they involve movement. So the answer to that was B. Then question 3, which process occurs by active transport? Uptake of glucose by villi, uptake of oxygen by root hair cells, uptake of starch by villi. No, starch cannot be absorbed into the villi. Uptake of water by root hair cells is osmosis, not active transport. So the answer to that was A. Then coming on to question number 4, which statement about enzymes is correct? Sometimes they say it's not correct, sometimes they say it's correct. So you've got to be careful when you're reading this question. Enzymes are made of lipid molecules. That's the first mistake. No. Enzymes are permanently denatured by high and low temperatures. No. It depends on their optimum. They are denatured at temperatures above their optimum. So this is not correct. Enzymes can only operate within a living organism. So that doesn't make sense also. Now the only answer to that was enzymes have individual shapes that lock onto specific molecules. So question 4, the answer to question 4 was D. And what we need to understand is, you see, enzymes can operate within Why is that wrong? We can do enzymes test even outside. We can do it in the lab, enzymes tests. Then we come on to question number 5. Now question number 5 is a very sort of a long diagram and all that question. Which diagram shows substances going into and out of a leaf when glucose is being formed? So that means when photosynthesis is occurring. So you have to know this, that it can't be carbon dioxide entering and oxygen also entering. So this is wrong. Then why is this correct? Is because carbon dioxide enters during photosynthesis and oxygen exits. So oxygen is going out and carbon dioxide is diffusing in. Why? Because inside the cells of the palisade mesophiles we have chloroplast, and the carbon dioxide is being used for photosynthesis. Now in D, what did we have? Carbon dioxide out, oxygen out. In this, of course, we had carbon dioxide and oxygen in. So all of those were wrong, and this is what was the answer to it. Then coming on to question number 6. A small mountain lake has aquatic plants growing underwater on the lake bed. Shortly after heavy rainfall, the mud on the lake bed becomes churned up and the water level rises. Why does this cause the rate of photosynthesis of these plants to fall? So you see, if the water becomes muddy, then there's going to be less light intending. So a small mountain lake has aquatic plants. So basically aquatic plants means there's a pond, and then there are some aquatic plants here, and then we have water here, and so it's a lake. And then it says growing up underwater in the lake bed. So they are not growing, they're growing somewhere here on the lake bed, not even higher up. I'm sort of down here on the lake bed. Now heavy rainfall, the mud on the lake bed. So what do we have? We have mud here. We have mud here. Becomes churned up. So this mud starts to disperse inside the pond, and the water level rises. So it gets, and the water level rises a bit. Why does this cause the rate of photosynthesis of plants to fall? And the only possible answer was lower light intensity. But now light has to pass through a whole lot of things, and plus there is all this mud here. So all that is going to be probably reflected back when it hits particles of mud. So lower light intensity was the answer to that. Then coming on to question number 7. Now as you look at question number 7, the elements listed are found in all living organisms. The elements listed are found in all living organisms. Which element is not obtained by plants from the soil? So yes, iron, magnesium, nitrogen is all obtained from the soil, but carbon is not obtained from the soil. So carbon is from the carbon dioxide in the air, combines with water to form glucose. Then it says question number 8. The table describes some characteristics of 4 people. Which person requires the highest energy intake in their diet? Highest energy intake in their diet. And what have they given you? They've given you age in years. They've given you the gender. Are they male or are they female? They've given you level of activity. Are they just couch potatoes sitting and watching Netflix? Or are they athletes and they work out and they do a lot of exercise? And body weight in kilograms. So A is a 5-year-old male, high level of activity, very naughty, jumping up on the chairs and the sofas, and has 18 kilograms as body weight. B is a 25-year-old male, low activity, couch potato, watching Netflix, body weight is 85. And C is a 30-year-old female, lot of activity, she's smart and she's an athlete, and her body weight is 82 kg. The D is a 65-year-old like me, female, low activity, I just sit and make videos, don't do much, and my body weight is 75. So the table describes some characteristics of 4 people. Which person requires the highest energy intake in their diet? The answer to that was C. Why? Because this female, 30-year-old female, has a lot of high level of activity and her body weight is 82 kg. So we were looking at, the main thing what we were looking at was when more energy would be needed only by the high activity people. So one was a 5-year-old jumping up and down, and the other was a 30-year-old with high activity and her body weight was 82 kg. So that was a clue that more weight, more energy, more naturally to maintain all the body cells, you need more respiration, more energy released. Number 9, where do both physical and chemical breakdown of food occur? Physical, you remember, is what? Like in your mouth, when you chew the food, is physical breakdown. In your stomach, when the food is churned, the muscle in the wall of the stomach, sort of churns the food. The wave of peristalsis, which keeps on churning the food for a very long time, till the food is in the stomach for nearly about 3 hours. So physical and chemical is breakdown of food. You see, colon, there's no breakdown of food. In liver, there's no breakdown of food. In the rectum, only the feces are stored. They're stored for a short while till you defecate, and then of course they're passed out. So there's no breakdown of food in the rectum. So the very obvious answer was stomach. Wasn't a very difficult question. Then coming on to question number 10. Now if you look at question number 10, the table shows the rates of absorption of 2 different sugars, arabinose and glucose, in living and dead intestines. The concentration of sugars inside the intestines were the same in each case. Living intestine, arabinose was 31, in the dead intestine was 31. But glucose in the living intestine was 102 rate of absorption, 102 arbitrary units. Arbitrary means they're just units which they have made up, there's no unit to it. So arbitrary units. Please understand what are arbitrary units. If you don't know it, just type in the Google search and you'll find out what is arbitrary units. Just a number that we give arbitrary. Like I say, okay, the best burger is 10 and the worst burger is 1. So how many marks would you give to McDonald's, or how many marks would you give to Hardee's? So it's just an arbitrary. I gave it 10 and 1, 1 to 10. Which one is the best burger? And some of you might say something and some of you might not agree with it. So it's arbitrary. Like I use this a lot when I'm asking a patient with migraine, what is the level of headache? And he or she says, well, I said the 10 is the worst headache and 1 is the least. And so how much is the headache now? And she says 5. So I get to know, I have a rough idea. 5 means it's not so bad, it's not so little, but it's medium. So the arabinose and glucose. Now, what are the main methods of absorption of arabinose and glucose in the living intestine? So this is what we need to understand, is that in the living intestine, what is the main thing? So in the living intestine, arabinose is 31, in the dead it's also 31. And in the arabinose in the living is 31, dead is also 31, but in the living glucose is 102. Now what is different? In the living one, active transport can take place because respiration is taking place and energy is being released. So that is why arabinose was diffusion and glucose was active transport. And that's of course a syllabus point which they were asking, and this is one of the syllabus points that they have, and they asked you for that. Then what is the importance of the large surface area of the root hairs of a plant? For anchoring the plant in the soil, that's the whole root system anchors the plant in the soil. For storage of starch, no, at times, like potatoes grow on the roots and they're actually something else. And for transport of sugars made during photosynthesis, no. Root hairs. Root hairs are these root hair cells in the roots. You see them a lot in carrots. If you buy a carrot and you can see these root hairs, these things, thin thread-like things coming out of it, those are the root hairs. Because carrot is a root. So basically it was for water and mineral ion uptake. So this is what you have to understand. Question 12. What is the main cause of water moving up the leaves? Up the leaves. Up to the leaves. So this is a plant. These are the roots. This is the stem. And then we have a leaf here. So they're asking you, how does the water, what is the main cause of, first of all, the water enters the root, then it's going to go up. Now, what is the main reason why it is going up? The main reason is this: evaporation from the walls of the mesophyll cells. Now, if you remember, this is the cuticle, and then you have the upper epidermis, and then you have the palisade mesophyll cells, and then you have the spongy mesophyll cells, and then you have the water molecules are on the surface of the spongy mesophyll cells, and then they evaporate, and then they move out of the stomata. So evaporation from the walls of the mesophyll cells, and then the water vapors diffuse out of the leaves. So evaporation from the epidermis of the leaf, no, that's incorrect. Use of water in photosynthesis, no. It says what is the main cause of water moving up to the leaves? Water moving up to the leaves in the xylem vessel. So basically, because of that, a suction force is created when those water vapors evaporate and then they diffuse out. Water vapors diffuse out. Please listen to me very carefully, the words I use. So the water vapors that diffuse out is going to cause a suction force, and that is going to cause the water to move up to the leaves in the xylem vessels. Question number 13. What is meant by double circulation? Blood travels down the left side of the body and up the right. Blood travels away from the heart and the arteries and back to the heart and the veins. There are two separate circulatory systems in the body. There is low pressure circulation to the lungs and a high pressure circulation to the body tissues. So you have to understand is what is meant by double circulation. Double circulation, of course, is a low pressure circulation. Why do we need a double circulation? Why? Because we need less pressure in the lungs and we need more pressure to the body cells. And that is the main reason why you have a double circulation, because the right side is the one which has a low pressure circulation and the left side has a high pressure circulation. That is the main reason Allah gave you four-chambered heart. The fish has a two-chambered heart. So this is what you have to understand is low pressure to the lungs and a high pressure. That is the main reason why you have a double circulation. 14. The diagram shows a section through a vessel carrying oxygenated blood as seen through a microscope. So it's a thick muscular wall and it's got a small lumen. That's all what you can see. What is this vessel? It can't be any vein, so you have to do the choice between a coronary artery and a pulmonary artery. Yeah, pulmonary artery does carry deoxygenated blood to the lungs, but that has a very would not have such a lot of muscle in it. It would have, but not a lot. So what is this vessel carrying? And then of course, what was in the question? Yeah, carrying oxygenated blood. Pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. Pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. So the diagram is a vessel carrying oxygenated blood. So I don't think there could be any mistake in it. You see, these were of course all wrong. Veins were all wrong, except for the pulmonary vein which carries oxygenated blood. So we could have given you pulmonary vein here. Hepatic vein, pulmonary vein. But the choices were between coronary artery and pulmonary artery because the two veins that were given to you was hepatic portal vein and renal vein, which carry deoxygenated blood. Okay, now we come on to another question, which is of course as you read it, you'll find it a little difficult. Hypoplastic left heart failure is a rare heart condition. And you'll say, oh my God, it's not in the syllabus. No. They've said this, that they will ask you questions, which are information will be given to you and you will have to decipher the information. You will have to figure out the explanation. Hypoplastic left heart failure is a rare heart condition in which the lower left chamber of the heart has not developed properly and is much smaller than normal. The immediate result of this condition is to cause lower than normal blood flow into which blood vessel. The immediate result of this condition is to cause lower than normal blood flow. So lower left chamber of the heart is what? So this is the heart. This is the right side. This is the left side. You know, this is the left atrium and this is the left ventricle. And this is the left atrium. So the immediate result of this condition is to cause lower than into which blood vessel? Now you know from the left ventricle arises the aorta. So the aorta comes out, and this is what they were expecting you to give me, is if you knew that what comes out of the left ventricle. And only that student would be able to do it, who knew the structure of the heart and the different vessels which come out of the left ventricle. Then coming on to question number 16, during a race, the leg muscles of an athlete use more energy than can be supplied by aerobic respiration. Which substances will build up in the leg muscle and cause pain? Makes sense. Aerobic respiration, more energy that can be supplied. So anaerobic respiration will start, and if you all know, anaerobic respiration results in the production of lactic acid. Please remember, ethanol is present in yeast. Carbon dioxide is produced in yeast. So carbon dioxide and ethanol would be if it was a question on yeast and the anaerobic respiration in yeast. So this was question 17. Then we come on to question number 17. 17. What happens during expiration? We all know during inhalation, the volume increases, pressure decreases. During exhalation or expiration, the volume decreases, pressure increases, and the air moves out from a high pressure inside the chest cavity or in the lungs to outside low pressure. So diaphragm muscles relax, pressure in the thoracic cavity rises and then falls, and volume decreases. So when it relaxes, pressure in the thoracic rises and then falls, and then volume of the thoracic cavity decreases. So initially the pressure was more, but then as the volume decreases, the pressure will, you see, as the volume decreases, the pressure will increase, but then air will be exhaled out. Now coming on to question number 18. The pie chart shows the proportion of gases in samples of inspired and expired air. This is inspired air and this is expired air. One is the large one, then two is slightly, then three. Now which segment represents which gas? Now everybody knows one is nitrogen. Can't be anything else. So these two are wrong. But now we would figure out between A and B. So segment 2 in inspired air is more and then it has decreased a little. So everybody knows that's oxygen. And segment 3 was less in inspired air and more, so that has to be other gases. Or it could have been carbon dioxide. So segment 1 is nitrogen, segment 2 is oxygen because that is decreased in expired air. So oxygen is used up by the body cells. From 20% it goes down to 16%. Now in this they have given you a pie chart instead of the normal things, that the tables that they give you, which is usually you've sort of memorized it and ratified it. Then coming on to the next question. Now this is a question 19. In a kidney dialysis machine, which substance cannot diffuse through the dialysis membrane? They've shown you dialysis fluid, dialysis membrane, dialysis fluid in, out, so it's coming in here and it's moving out here. Blood from the patient is going in here, then it's going out, going all through it, and then it's going back to the patient. Now, what things cannot pass? So there has to be three have to be things which can pass, and one has to be one which cannot pass. It says cannot diffuse through the dialysis membrane, which is a sort of a partially permeable membrane. So the answer, glucose, as you know, can diffuse, sodium can diffuse, urea in fact is moved through the dialysis machine. So that has to move into the dialysis fluid, and that is only the case you put a person on a dialysis machine only when both his kidneys fail. And so the kidneys are not removing the urea. So if they are not removing the urea, then it is going to be passed out in the dialysis fluid. So the only thing was the hormone, which is insulin, which cannot cross the dialysis membrane. Then coming on to question number 20. The diagram represents a section through the skin. So this is now, what are we looking at? We're looking at this part, which is the epidermis, and then we've got the dermis. Which row shows the functions of the labeled parts? So now Z, as we all know, Z is the sweat glands, and then it's got the sweat duct. So this is the sweat gland, and then this is the sweat duct, which goes, and the sweat comes onto the surface of the skin here. And then you have, this is some sort of a nerve or receptors. And then you have, this is of course the capillary network, which we are seeing here. Which row shows the functions? They haven't asked you the labeling of it. Now they've been clever. They've asked you the function of it. So we have to understand is, if I was doing this question, I would have said, okay, releases a fluid. Now, neither do the capillaries release a fluid, nor do the receptors release a fluid. So it's only the sweat glands. So Z was only one answer. I would have guessed it from that. I wouldn't have gone into the other detail at all. I would have just looked at if Z is the sweat gland, so it releases some fluid, and that fluid is the sweat. Sweat is a fluid. When you're sweating, like you're sweating on your face. I mean, this morning I was sweating like anything when I had to go and do some work out in the mall. So it was sweat. Sweat is a fluid. Sweat is not a solid, it's a fluid, and nor is it a gas. So sweat is a fluid. So this is what we had to understand in this part of the question. Okay, we'll finish the video here, and thank you for watching this video. And I hope this has been helpful to you, and we'll continue the rest of this paper on the second video. Thank you very much.